right? Got to figure out different ways, be adaptive.
I never look forward to the budget hearing.
Although something exciting, congratulations on 100 days in school, Miss Suffoletto.
That's right.
So exciting.
Yes. I have so many photos. I said, I'm going to have to make like a link on the website, and Facebook is going to be like, you cannot put up that many photos that people have sent us. It was really good. It was cute.
All right, Kate, we're good to go.
Okay, excellent. Sorry, is Valerie on yet or?
I'm here.
Oh, great. Sorry. I don't have my full screen going, so I can't see everybody's faces all set, but I will take notes. But okay, well, I'd love to welcome you all to the February 11th Board of Education meeting for Voluntown Elementary School. We'll call the meeting to order. It is now 7 o'clock on the dot.
Right.
Great. And so why don't we start by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under
God,
God.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Dee, would you mind doing a short roll call for us, please?
Yes, and Dee Dee, could you please call out first and last names so that Sean and Erin know the board members, okay?
Sure. We have Kate Beauparlant. She's our chairperson. Megan Wicks is here as our vice chair. Kathy Grant is our secretary. Arca is not here. You mentioned she might not be. Valerie Musciano. Hope I said that right.
Okay.
Christopher Wilson. I don't see Scott Paul, and also obviously Adam, Amy, Suffoletto, and Lloyd Johnson.
And for our guest also present is Sean McKenna, the superintendent of schools from Griswold, and also Erin Palanen, the high school principal, Griswold High School principal. So thank you so much. Okay, Kate.
And just one correction, since I know the Palanen versus the Polonen switch is a little bit hard coming from a close family connection to that, to those names. But that's just a short little correction on Erin's last name. But thank you, Sean and Erin, for joining us. We really appreciate you coming to take some time with us. And we're really excited to hear from you in a moment. But at this point, I will open it up to citizens' comments. I don't believe we had any sent to us, right, Dee Dee?
None were received.
None were received. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, as I said last meeting, I just wanted to do a quick recital of our Board of Education mission statement. It might be good for Sean and Erin to hear that as well. So I will just do that briefly. The Voluntown Board of Education's mission is to provide our students the skills essential to reach their highest potential in a safe environment for learning as they aspire to become responsible, respectful, and civic-minded members of society. We commit to help educate, challenge, and inspire each child to excel as lifelong learners who can adapt constructively in an ever-changing, multicultural, and technological world. So with that, I'd just love to welcome our guest today. Again, without further introduction, I think, Sean, I'm not sure how you'd like to proceed with the, we did receive the presentation. Are you planning to share the screen with us?
Good evening, everybody. Madam Chairperson, if I may, I can share the screen.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
You're welcome. So can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay. So we're really thrilled to be here, Mrs. Palonen and I, and to share the work that we're doing. All Voluntown students, we're so honored to have as part of our Griswold family. And so we see Voluntown students as our students. So we feel that we're moving forward together in this work. We're very excited to share it with you, and I think you're going to enjoy it. And we're here to answer any questions that you may have. So we put together a slide deck that encapsulates some of the work that we're doing this year in preparation for the challenges that we knew we were going to meet. We have partnered with the Highlander Institute out of Providence, Rhode Island. They have a sister company called Context EDU. And I'm not going to read every single slide. So if you have questions, feel free to make this a conversation, because we're here to answer your questions and share the good things that we're doing. Last spring, I joined with a group of superintendents that met repeatedly on Fridays throughout the spring and the summer months to start conceptualizing what the new school year would look like. And I was introduced to the Highlander Institute by some colleagues in the region. They did a presentation, and one of their chief strategists, Kara O'Connell, was forming a new company called Context EDU to help districts navigate the different kinds of challenges that we were going to encounter with school reopening, namely the different learning models, the hybrid learning model, the remote learning programs that we had, and the sort of switches that we might have to encounter in the event that we'd have to pivot at any given moment because of a public health concern and go out into full remote. And so we partnered with Context EDU. We did a lot of work in the summer to support our teachers and support our district, and our Board of Education was on board. And part of that included developing what we call a school community voice team that consists of our teachers, consists of administrators, consists of board members. We're going to expand it to students and also members of the business community. It also included having professional development that was very specific to prepare our teachers to give the best kind of education that they could give in this sort of unpredictable environment, whether it was hybrid, whether it was remote, and whether or not it was fully in person. And it was very exciting to do this work. It started in the summer of 2020. And we did a lot of work at Griswold Elementary School, strategically thinking, talking with one another, looking at student data and parent data that we had from the springtime that, quite frankly, painted what I would describe as an honest picture. There were some highlights of the work that we were doing with fully remote learning, and there were some serious areas of improvement. And we didn't want to ignore that, because this is about elevating school community voice. This is about taking the input from our parents, from our teachers, from our community, and most importantly, from our students, and making what we call data-informed decisions. So we went into the new school year, and we had many PD sessions for teachers that were very focused on specific tools such as Flipgrid, Google Classroom, G Suite, Zoom, playlists, and HyperDocs to get the teachers ready for the kinds of learning that would happen on what we call the continuity of experience. The fall 2020, we formed this school community voice team, and we're very excited about this work because it's a team that includes two Board of Ed members, our chairperson, Mary Beth Malin, Marty Osga, Principal Polonin. All of the principals are involved with it. We have teachers, we have support staff, and the purpose of the school community voice team is to look at survey data that we are going to issue multiple times throughout the course of the school year, and look at that data and do what we call deep dives of analyses. And that includes what the students are saying, and that includes what the parents are saying, and that includes what the teachers are saying. So we have done 2 rounds of data. We're going to do a total of 5. And when we get this data, and I'm going to have Erin speak to it when I get to the high school, we don't just look at it. We have very thoughtful, deliberative discussions on what the information is telling us, what the students are telling us, what's working, what's not working, and the road of improvement that we have to travel. So we did one round of data in the fall. We just completed another round of data and analyses this past couple of months. We were very excited about it. And we saw some bright spots, emerging priorities, and some areas that we need to improve upon. So the round 2 set of data, we had a district level meeting with each of the schools and our director of teaching, learning, and innovation, Glenn Labossiere. They met with Kara, they met with the principal and vice principal, and they looked at each of the data very deliberatively, very carefully. Here's some numbers for you. What we did with this latest round, which we're very excited about, is we pushed out the data in terms of, we had a group of students that took the data that were in the hybrid model. We had a group of students that took the data that was in the fully remote model. We have the number of teachers that took the data. We have it split out by schools. And as you can see, this was a very, very detailed endeavor. Okay, so I am going to turn it over to Erin. We're going to pull up the high school data. And Erin, if you can just kind of give us a global overview of the work that you did with Marcy and Kara.
Yes, absolutely. Good evening, everybody. I am Erin Polonen. I'm the principal of Griswold High School. And as the Madam Chairperson mentioned, it is a funny story when it comes to Polonen versus Pellinen. And if Arica were here, she would have chimed right in because she's a cousin of my husband. So very, very interesting there. Anyway, as Superintendent McKenna was sharing, the work that we're doing in partnership with Context EDU has really been exciting work and opportunity for me as a building leader to reflect and grow as well. And so this process has been so important because in these, very challenging times, involving the community is now more important than ever, and having everyone's voice heard in order to meet the challenging needs that all of us are facing today. So it's been very, very exciting. And it's quite a comprehensive process because we want to make sure that we're doing it right in the best interest of our students. And so when we're developing these surveys, we're doing them carefully and thoughtfully, and we're doing them specifically to each building and their needs. Following, once we collect that data, we're working as we ask our educators and as our educators ask our students to do. We're looking at analyzing the data. So it starts with, at the high school, Marcy Dillon, who is our associate principal, and I sit down and look at all of the raw data. And we start to pull out some of our highlights in some of the areas that we're like, we need to look deeper into this. And then from there, we meet with the Director of Teaching, Learning, and Innovation, Mr. Labossiere, and we start to have those kinds of what we call PLCs, professional learning communities, to really look at, it's like a data team. And then we pull in Kara O'Connell from Context EDU to decipher the data even more. And that's all in anticipation of our full school and community voice team meeting, where we go through it again. And what we do is we really analyze specifically to each building, and we pull out what we feel is the most pertinent information for reflection and for highlighting, for celebrating, but also to prioritize our areas of focus moving forward. It's essential that we share out this data with our students and with our families as well. And so in this second round, we were very impressed with, we delineated 2 surveys for our full distance learners and for our hybrid learners, because we wanted to see both perspectives. And we were very, very thrilled to, and it was really quite awesome to see that the distance learners and our hybrid learners shared almost identical responses. This was really encouraging to share out with teachers, because one of their biggest challenges, or one of their harshest critiques of self, has been I feel like maybe I'm not meeting my distance learners the way that I am my hybrid learners. And so this data was an opportunity to share with them that the work that they're putting in to those synchronous learning opportunities with both hybrid and distance learners, it's working. So they're balancing a lot in the classroom with their cameras on. It's live for the students that are at home as well. And so for them to get that feedback that it's effective was really, really encouraging and inspiring. And another challenge that teachers had was, how do we give students opportunities to work collaboratively, work in pairs, work in groups when they're remote? And so again, our partnership with Context EDU, we spent some time providing professional development to staff on doing that through breakout rooms and being able to pop into different rooms and randomly select how students are together just in the virtual world. And 80% of our students reported that they get those opportunities at least 2 times a week, which is really quite impressive. And so it shows that our students are comfortable in the virtual setting and want opportunities still to engage with their peers. So that was some really positive feedback that we were able to share. We also have a huge emphasis this year, more so than ever, on overall wellness, social, emotional wellness of all of our learners. Building that foundational relationship and connection is really the foundation of setting the stage for productive learning. And so we've really made that a priority every year, but this year especially. And the data that we received back definitely shared that students felt like they had an adult to talk to and to work with if they had any struggles academically, but also if it had nothing to do with school either. And so that was definitely a major takeaway and an encouraging piece of the data. And then we look at where we are at this point and what we're going to focus on moving forward. And so some of that data that was pulled out was we're going to continue to work as a school community in finding ways to differentiate with our fully remote learners. How can we provide them more differentiation in their learning, as well as student choice? We're looking to deepen discussion while in the remote setting. I'm sure that you've all experienced, I have as well, now that we've transitioned into this virtual world, that you try to engage in really deep dialogue and it can get pretty awkward because it's like, do I raise my hand? Can I chime in? I have to unmute. Uh-oh, I'm still muted. Oh gosh. So it changes the dynamics totally. And so we're looking at, all right, let's develop some protocols for making some more authentic, deep discussion where the students are leading the learning. And I, as the teacher, am really the facilitator taking it all in. And providing our students real authentic experiences. They want to know, I think they've always wanted to know why what they're learning is important. What does it matter to me in the long run? But now that we're going through this pandemic, they want to know more so than ever. So finding those ways to create that authentic, relevant learning experience and tie it to their real world. Those are some things that we'll continue to work on and that we certainly pulled out of this data.
Thank you, Erin. So as Erin emphasized, we identified the bright spots. I haven't emphasized this enough. We continue to support our teachers through this hybrid and distance model. We actually developed a professional learning opportunity at the beginning of the school year where we actually had our teachers take some time to focus on prioritizing self-care, because we believe as a learning community, we have to take care of one another through this difficult time. We wanted to make sure that we're continuing to use data throughout the school year. We want to identify and scale bright spots through targeted teacher interviews, ongoing gap analysis at the classroom, school, and district level. We continue to collect data, refining, adding, and removing questions to ensure clear, actionable findings. We use the data to confirm the effectiveness of programming, and we're codifying lessons learned to improve teaching and learning post-COVID. And so the work that we're doing doesn't mean that the work that we did pre-COVID stopped. What we're trying to do is to make sure that we continue and we grow that work. And this is something that Erin spearheaded, the vision of the graduate. And when I heard your mission statement as a Board of Education, which was wonderful, I saw a lot of parallels. So our vision of the graduate is that all of our graduates from Griswold Public Schools, we want to make sure that they are a critical thinker, that the graduate is a resilient problem solver, is an effective communicator, and that the graduate is an engaged citizen. So this work is continuing. It is not stopping, it's evolving. And we are continuing to add in as best as we can during this unpredictable time during COVID, how we modify these pillars of the vision of the graduate. And so we have gone through this exercise, and the high school continues to look at this very important work to the extent that they're adding a fifth pillar called I am a truth seeker. So we've done a lot of talking. I'm going to stop my slide share at this point in time. Erin and I are big believers in dialogue. And so at this point in time, we are happy to answer any questions that you have. I was so thrilled once again to hear about your vision statement, because we do believe that there are many parallels. And just to give you some other statistics, the state of Connecticut just produced the learner model in terms of attendance. 95.1% of all Griswold students have been in attendance during this hybrid / remote period, or in some cases, we hope we're going to get to full in person. And that includes 93% of all special ed learners. So we are very excited about the work that we're doing, and we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Well, thank you so much. That was, it's really just exciting to see the work that you're doing, especially in concert with its Context EDU, correct? Is that what it was? Yes. So, I mean, just to see something, I know that we, and Amy and Adam can speak to this a little bit more fulsome, the work that I think we've all tried to digest during the COVID time, like what resources that are at our hands and fingertips to really help navigate, all the troubles that we face. And it's great to see that you found something that seems really to be working well for you to formulate some of these ideas that not only help you during this crisis, but also forward thinking and, really understanding and doing a deep dive into your student population, for the future. It's just very impressive. But I'll open it up.
I have a quick question on the surveys that went out. It says round 2 by the numbers, most specifically looking at the high school, since that's kind of the piece that impacts Voluntown students the most. So it looks like you had roughly 400 surveys that went out to the high school between hybrid and fully remote. Was everybody given the opportunity to participate in that survey? And this was the amount of people. Sorry.
That's okay.
I have a 1-year-old growling at me.
Good. That's good.
Were all students given the opportunity to participate, and this is the response that you received?
Right. Our census right now is a little over 500. We certainly make multiple attempts to get all students. I'm not going to say that we need to reach more students with these surveys, but we feel that it was a good participation rate, all things considered. And that's actually one of the things that we're going to work on for the next round. So each round that we do this, our goal is to exceed our participation rate.
So I had a question. I was impressed with the 95.1% student attendance, because especially during a time of a pandemic, being able to get kids into school and engaged is really a feat in itself, right? So a lot of the time on our board has been spent kind of talking about those disengaged students, the students who aren't attending. And how do we give those students the opportunity to re-engage? How do we meet them where they're at in order to get them on board with where they need to be? So how are you as a school or as Griswold dealing with those disengaged students, the students that may have fallen off and may be failing multiple courses now? And, just thinking about our high school students that are there, are there, instances where now these students aren't going to be able to graduate because they're failing multiple courses? Where are we meeting them at in order to get them re-engaged? That makes sense.
I'm going to tag team that with Erin. That is a great question. And as a parent of 2 high school students, I would want to know the answer to that question. We are very aggressive with monitoring our students. And what I mean by that is we use attendance data, we use engagement data, we obviously use grades and performance data. But we also at each school have a team of support staff that monitors this data frequently. And we have done not only home visits and calls, we do have a director of security that works very closely with our team, and we have gone out to homes. But we've also established through the SRBI process, learning labs, which I'm going to have Erin talk to you about. And then I'm going to talk to you about the future work, which is very exciting with new coursework and surveying students. So Erin, do you want to talk about the learning labs? Because you have 3 different learning labs at the school.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. That's a really wonderful question and certainly a challenge that we're all facing. So we have made it really a critical component of the work that we're doing day to day. One of the things that I am very proud of looking back, when you're in the moment, it's overwhelming. But one of the things that I'm very proud of looking back to the summer was we spent a lot of time as an administrative team planning what the schedule was going to look like. And something, a choice that we made at Griswold High School was that we were going to put our students into classes, and there was going to be live teaching going on for every single student. And so while that seemed monumental and was, and certainly a challenge at first for teachers, it has paid off in that our students, whether they're remote or in person, are part of a cohort, and they have that flexibility to be able to come back to the hybrid model without a skip. They've been part of the class as is. And so we're starting to see that. We're starting to see students come back as we have more consistency with our learning model. And that's really been a huge part of a student feeling connected to their teacher and their cohort. We meet very, very frequently, weekly for attendance team meetings and twice a week for support staff and SST. And these are the students that we're really looking at individually, and we're reaching out through many different means to get them re-engaged in school. And we've developed kind of 3 tiers of intervention for some of our students that are highest priority with needing to re-engage. For our seniors, and our seniors that we would say we're concerned about graduation, we have what we call an academy, which is staffed by 2 teachers and an intern. And what happens is we offer those students 4 days a week where they come in and they report to their academy cohort, and they are logging into their classes. They also have access to their cohort if appropriate, if they wanted to physically go there. But many of these students just appreciate having their own space with their teacher and the students that are in that cohort, and they come 4 times a week. We also have established our learning lab, and our learning lab is for our 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. And what happens is they come in 4 days a week as well. For the 2 days that their cohort is remote, they report to the learning lab. So they're physically coming to school, maintaining that schedule, but they are with the Learning Lab. And then on the days where they are in person, they go into their cohort classroom. And then we have our students that have individualized programs or plans, either an IEP or a 504 plan. And if the team and or case manager feel that it is appropriate for those students to have an individualized program, and really it runs the whole gamut from students that are supported with a support staff throughout the duration of the day to students that come in and just report with their cohort. They come in for the 4 days as well. So right now we have about 40 students that are in that model. And it's proven to have some success with some of our students that we weren't reaching at all. They are now attending 4 days, which is something we're really happy about.
Another way we're engaging students that may be not on our radar, we need to pull them back to our radar, is Erin is working with our Director of Teaching, Learning, and Innovation. We are getting a curriculum SWAT team together. And I say that humorously, but seriously, we're developing new courses that are very, very high interest. So one of, if you looked at the data rounds that we did with survey data, one thing that popped with math at the middle school, which was interesting, is that was a big bright spot. So we had the principal go in and really work with those teachers. What was it that those teachers were doing with math at the middle school? And lo and behold, what we found were a lot of activities were around gaming. So that is one of the courses that Erin's researching with her team. Is we might do sort of a sports in gaming through math, using math. It's not something where we're putting kids on video screens. They're actually using mathematical equations and problems and real world authentic tasks through the lens of gaming. So that's one of the courses that we're developing. We're also developing more hands-on courses. We're working with our science department. So we're looking forward to previewing those in maybe a summer academy format and next year. And part of this, which is very exciting, is we're putting the course proposals in front of the students. And we're going to have them survey and say, do you like this? Is this something that you're going to be passionate about? Because we believe in Griswold that we educate for excellence for all of our students. Mm-hmm. And is part of our vision and vision of the graduate.
So as a follow-up to that, sorry, I don't mean to take over the meeting, but I just, we've spent a lot of time on this. So you have a disengaged student who decides to come back. Let's say, we're right around semester 2 starting now, and they've been away for a while. What do you have in place as far as the credit recovery that they might need for a first semester? Is that in place, or are we looking at things like summer school for these students now because they need to go further out rather than being able to backtrack?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. So we do have credit recovery opportunities, and we have a lot of students that take advantage of that through Plato or VHS, but it is seen in a classroom and overseen by a teacher. So it's not just a student doing it on their own, although of course they have access to it when at home, and some students very, very much take advantage of that. We also, we really do look to at each student's situation individually. This year, because of COVID, we did switch to a 4x4 model. So in this second semester, it really is a set of 4 new classes. So we have done some schedule changes to give kids that maybe didn't have as much success in the first semester a second chance or opportunity. And that comes with meetings with the families, meetings with the students, a shared understanding of what needs to be done so that we can collaboratively work together to help the student to be successful. We're also having some very exciting, productive dialogue about what the summer is going to look like. Not only for students that maybe need some credit recovery, but also some students that maybe want to explore enrichment opportunities or early credit opportunities coming into high school. So we've got some really exciting things on the horizon as well. But I really do think that we work with each individual student to figure out what we can do to help them get the credits that they need, while also making sure that they're prepared to leave high school.
Adam? I'd like to make a comment. I was at Griswold High School recently for a meeting for a student that is in the situation that Aaron just explained. And going into the meeting, my mindset was, because of the difficulties the student had first semester, I was very worried that the student wouldn't complete his senior year successfully, but I was extremely impressed with all the problem solving, brainstorming, and options provided to that student and the family. The student, I believe, is going to do the academy and attend school 4 days a week. Due to the nature of that person's disability, it was very difficult to self-motivate on the days when the student wasn't in school. And now being able to be there 4 days a week, we're very hopeful it'll make a huge difference in that student's ability to be a lot more successful the second half of the year. So the planning that went into providing support for those kids was really very commendable. And thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. It's good to see you. And I'll just share, just a little bit about me, and really just a tiny bit. Prior to becoming the principal of Griswold High School, I was the director of special education for Griswold Public Schools for 3 years. And so I completely understand, kind of the the need to meet each student at where they are, and their individual needs are priority. And I like to implement that with all students, regardless of if they have an IEP. But I also understand what it's like to have students that are part of your school that maybe attend another school, and how it's really important that we work together to meet the needs of the students. And sometimes that can be very, very challenging. So I really make it a priority at Griswold High School to do what I can as the building leader before it needs to get out, anywhere else to help support our kids.
And if I could add one more thing that's pretty exciting, and Aaron can jump in. Griswold Public Schools, you can speak to Superintendent Burrows. We have joined with AASA. There's a superintendent, a nationally renowned superintendent, Ray McNulty, who has this group called Future Focused Schools Collaborative. Griswold Public Schools just joined with that. We just started the work yesterday. It's incredibly exciting. We are working with districts from where in Texas, Idaho, California, to look at emerging programs and ways to educate our students in a rapidly changing society. So that's a 2-year commitment. We literally just launched that partnership yesterday. That was our first session. And it's very exciting, the work that we're going to be doing going forward in designing our strategic plan, and very exciting to look at opportunities for our students by researching other districts across the country.
Mr. McKenna, can you just repeat that? The Future Focused Collaborative, was it?
The future, it's called the future, it's AASA. Future Focused, it's the American Association of School Superintendents. It's called the Future Focused Schools Collaborative. We just joined. Right now, I think we're one of 2 districts in Connecticut. Middletown is the other district, and there's a 3rd district joining on with this national effort. And it is tied in with some of the work that former Commissioner Miguel Cardona is doing, but now he will be the Secretary of Education. So we're very excited to be on that cutting edge of that work.
Yeah, that's excellent. Is that more geared towards full districts with high schools? For the most part, I'm sure it has large districts that would have high schools versus something like ours, which is smaller?
I don't, that's a good question. I think, Erin, we were looking at a school district out in Idaho that was only about 535 students total. They did have a high school. It is, I honestly don't know, but it is through AASA. I'm happy to talk offline with Mr. Burrows about it, or any of you at a future meeting.
That's exciting. Thank you. Good luck with that.
So a quick question on just kind of maintaining where your students are. Are you guys doing any sort of ongoing assessments? Obviously there's, state mandated things, but are you doing anything to see how your students are keeping up, or how they're, if they're falling behind, or how they're doing compared to other high schools? Can you talk a little bit about that? With
Sure.
this, specifically like with the distance learning and the hybrid model and that
Sure.
piece of it?
I'm going to give you a 50,000 foot view, and then I'm going to turn it over to Erin. We have two district-wide assessments that we use. Griswold Public School is tied in with NWEA MAP testing. It's issued 3 times a year. We've had it for about 3 years now. It's nationally norm test. We issue it in the fall and the winter and the spring. We have issued it this, I believe, Erin, correct me if I'm wrong, they just finished the winter testing. Griswold Public Schools also issues PSATs in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. And Erin can talk to you briefly about the data analysis that they do.
Yeah, absolutely. We did. We just finished up on Tuesday. So we're going to have some PLCs happening very soon, comparing the fall data to the winter data. But in conjunction with all of that is the day-to-day and just the tremendous amount of curriculum work that continues to be done, but that has been done in aligning our assessments with our priority standards, and also finding those interdisciplinary opportunities, as well as embedding our vision of the graduate and all of those good things. So one of our priorities is reviewing and analyzing data. That's one of our school goals for the year, one of the 4 that we always reflect back on. So teachers are working both in departments as well as within their cohort. So there's a cohort of 4 teachers to do those PLCs, that data analysis based on those common formative assessments. So it's constant. And then we'll come together as a full faculty, and we'll use that information not just to inform student performance, but also to inform our instruction and make revisions as needed, or as appropriate moving forward. We really look at curriculum as constantly evolving and constantly changing.
Can you give us a little bit? So you said you did it in the fall. What did that data look like? And was it meeting your expectations based on previous years?
I can tell you. Go ahead, Erin. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think overall. So of course we were. I think we were more anxious than ever because we were just coming off of a pandemic to see how our students performed. And we were overall quite pleased and quite impressed. We saw growth overall, and that's looking collectively at the data. And then looking again, MAP allows us to look individually at every student based on strands as well. And so to really highlight those red areas and start to target some of those interventions very early was a priority in the fall. We also gave our PSATs to our 11th graders. It almost didn't happen because of the pandemic, but we did everything we could to make it happen. And so we have that comparative data for those 11th graders from when they were 9th graders and 10th graders. And we were very, very happy to see that there was growth there as well. So this second round, which is being analyzed as we speak by our instructional specialist, is something that we'll take a critical look at probably next week. And we'll be doing that comparative study from the fall to the winter.
The other thing I just want to emphasize is what Erin mentioned. Those are standardized assessments. We have teachers who are doing wonderfully, are creating wonderful teacher-generated assessments. And we're a big fan of checking for understanding for short formative assessments along the way. So it's not about, the 2-hour test and whether you go through the various different sections. Our teachers are constantly checking for understanding with short formative assessments within the instructional block.
How many students would you say are in each of your kind of cohorts? Is it I would assume you'd have some in live and some online as well at the same time with the same teacher. Is that right?
Yeah, so we did a complete overhaul of our schedule over the summer. And I was very, 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 very nervous about the decision because it was a big one. But we threw everything out the window. But it really has worked. So to give you an understanding, what we did is we created cohorts based on the grade level. So we have 8 9th grade cohorts, we have 8 10th grade cohorts, we have, I believe, 5 11th grade cohorts and 6 12th grade cohorts. And we also have 5 AP cohorts for our 11th and 12th graders. And what we did was we looked at our building and we kind of made a 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade wing. We were able to separate them out into wings. And our students come in 9th and 10th graders on Mondays and Tuesdays, 11th and 12th graders on Thursdays and Fridays. And so that way the teacher is in person when their students are in person, but then their entire class is remote on those opposite days. So the teacher reports to their classroom, but their entire class is remote on those days. And so that's made it so that the cohort really travels together, but also the teacher is focused specifically on that class, as opposed to I have 50% of my kids in this day, and then I'm going to have 50% in this day. It's really allowed for them to find some sort of routine. We were very mindful of the things that our students really enjoy, as well as our academic rigor. We've put a lot of work into enhancing our AP opportunities. Most specifically was implementation of AP Human Geo last year, which is a 10th grade advanced placement course, which was really a big hit and something that with new implementation, I didn't want to see go by the wayside in the second year. So we generated these 5 AP cohorts so that we were able to run all of our AP classes. And then we also looked at some of the other biggies that our students really enjoy. They really enjoy our chamber choir program. They really enjoy our wind ensemble and our specialized band group and our yearbook. So we looked at the end of the day. We have a period called SIB, and we made sure that our specialized classes met during that time. So students are with their cohort, but then they're also getting their specialized classes as well. Does that make sense? Because it's
yeah, I mean, definitely logistically difficult, I'm sure. How many do you think would be in an average cohort, just to get an idea?
So we looked at the guidelines of COVID, and the maximum that we could have in each classroom while still adhering to our social distancing measures was 18. So the most that we have in a cohort is 18. Wow. But then we also have cohorts that are smaller as well. So I would say that the range is about 11 to a cohort of about 18.
Very good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Just a quick question back on offerings, kind of maybe if we just erase the idea that COVID ever existed and everything was as it was, can you just give us an update going on how many AP offerings you do have currently at Griswold High School?
Sure. So just in the last few years, we have added, like I said, the 10th grade cohort has the opportunity to take AP Human Geography. in the 1920 school year, we also added calculus BC. So those that have successfully taken AB have the opportunity to take BC. We added advanced Spanish 5 and the Seal of Biliteracy exam. So students are able to take that. That's been very, very exciting. We have AP Statistics, which was newly implemented this school year. We have AP ECE Physics, which was newly implemented this year. We had AP Physics, but we added the ECE component. We also have Advanced English 11, Advanced English 12, AP American Government, AP US History, AP Calc AB. We have AP Physics, AP Mobile Computer Science, AP Bio. We have Anatomy and Physiology, which we do in partnership with Three Rivers. So the students are able to exam out there. We have our CCP Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition class. We have Advanced CNA, where students pre-COVID do a hands-on work component where they're able to get hours working in the field and able to take the CNA exam and graduate with that. So I know my cousin, who is a recent PA and a graduate from Griswold, she took that program and was able to every summer while she was in college work as a CNA and use those hours towards becoming a PA. So it really, really helps our students that are exploring the medical pathway. We also implemented this year the Manufacturing Pipeline Initiative, which was another specialized cohort that we made sure to keep afloat, and that meets all year. It's in conjunction with EWIB. It's a partnership that we have with colleges to make sure that our students are competitively career ready. One exciting piece of that Manufacturing Pipeline Initiative is at the end, they're able to take a hands-on exam with employers that are there, and they have the opportunity to be hired on the spot. Most specifically with jobs like EB, but those are big jobs. And so our students have been really, really enthused about it. Of course, it just got off the ground this year. But as we're announcing certifications that students are receiving already through this program, we're noticing that students are coming to school counselors asking more and more about, hey, how do I get in this Manufacturing Pipeline Initiative? So, you know, we have other exciting opportunities that I could certainly share, but those are specific to kind of our AP and CCP programs.
Erin, can you, you know, as we send 8th graders over, they're always interested in knowing what to expect when they come and what is this going to look like. And I am sending you some athletes. So what do you project will be sports wise for my kids when they come there? They are driven to play, you know, sports at the high school level. So can you just talk a little bit about what you offer, you know, in the interscholastic league?
Yes, absolutely. So being an athlete myself, we are definitely a community that celebrates our sports. And candidly, one of the things that students will tell you they miss the most is the Friday night lights at Griswold High School, and I do too. So in the fall, we have football and cross country, volleyball, soccer, and cheerleading. In the winter, we have basketball, wrestling, indoor track, fencing, and cheerleading. In the spring, we have baseball, softball, lacrosse, golf, and track and field. But our athletic director also works closely with students that have other interests like swimming or gymnastics, and works to partner with other districts in making those opportunities happen for those individuals as well.
The Griswold Board of Ed has just created an ad hoc committee on athletics and field use with some strategic planning on, we're years out, on improving the fields, potentially going to turf That work has just started this year, and it's very exciting.
That's great. I'm sure my 8th graders will be excited because they are, it's something special to be part of a high school community of athletes. And that is one thing that, well, when they choose a high school and they're sports oriented, that they really look for.
Well, I appreciate you bringing that up, because that's another thing that we feel like we can highlight at Griswold High School. Just speaking candidly about a family that transferred to Griswold High School from a neighboring partner town. Athletics is what drove. And this student was one of the oldest of the 3, pursued and graduated our AP pathway. But what became captain of our football team and started as a freshman on the varsity team. And that's really like an opportunity that a lot of students are able to get at a smaller school like Griswold High School. Very rarely do we have students that are cut, which I certainly appreciate, is that they're given that opportunity. And approximately 20% of our athletes are our Wolverines from neighboring partner towns. So they're a big part. I mean, like Mr. McKenna said, anyone that walks in the door is a Griswold High School student, but 20% of them, when you delineate them out, are from other towns or live in other towns.
Thank you.
Hey, any other questions for Mr. McKenna and Mrs. Polonin?
I guess one more COVID doesn't exist question. Can you talk a little bit about the setup of your academic advising, helping your students to understand, what they're going to do after high school, if they're going to go to college, what they're looking for, that I think that's something that over the last several years has really evolved since many of us were in high school. So I'm just interested to see kind of where you guys, handle that with your students.
Yeah, I think that there's many tiers to that. And part of that is that we all own a piece of, helping to support our students in their desires following high school. And so, it speaks right back to the curriculum and what's happening in the classroom and the relevance and importance and how it can tie into life after high school. And so we've really made it a point to have every teacher, every staff member own a piece of making sure that our students are prepared for the next step. With that as well, pre-COVID, we host college fairs where our entire gym and cafeteria are filled with colleges and universities that come in, and we have all of our students throughout the day cycle through and have opportunities to stop at the booths. We noticed after my first year as principal, I said the kids are just kind of walking around. They don't know what they're doing. And so we made it a point prior to the college fair to talk with kids about how to approach a booth and what questions they might ask and what their interests might be. And so we saw that the next year, kids were taking the initiative to ask the questions and to get the information that they're looking for, that they need. We host nights. We really try to front load it in the fall with our parents on helping them with the college application process, as well as taking their children for college visits, what that looks like, how it's an excused absence, who they would want to contact, filling out the FAFSA, all that fun stuff. We work with our students in the classroom on some of their college essays. And then, of course, our school counselors, we have 3 school counselors at the high school. The state just came out, this is exciting, but the state just came out with new framework for a school counselor's curriculum at the high school level. So our school counselors are diving right into that. But what we've really shifted from students coming in and making appointments to see them to them pushing out and getting into classes and then pulling their students in individually from there. We're really emphasizing the, we're equalizing college as a choice to competitive career as well, and really boosting that up with our pathways and enhancing our pathways and marketing our pathways, so that students see like, hey, if I really have a strong desire to do hands-on work, this is the pathway that I'm going to take. And these are the classes that are going to supplement and enhance that work as well. So a lot of different tiers. I think that this year has afforded us the opportunity to look critically on how we can even do more of that in the future. And so we are looking forward to that come next year. But again, really looking at that new curriculum and getting our school counselors out there into the classrooms to get our students, prepared for what's next.
Just a couple of things to add to the work that Erin cited. One of the things that we did pre-COVID is we're involved with the Norwich Chamber of Commerce. Our students, we actually have them go to not only career fairs down in Norwich, but they had to do mock interviews on soft skills. And I'm going to brag as a superintendent. I can't get over the praise that our kids get, and those are your kids when they go to these events. These employers are waiting for the Griswold kids to come. They come dressed, they come ready, they are looking for feedback, they're looking for critiques of their resume. So we've done that. Unfortunately, with COVID, we can't do it anymore. We instituted a community service piece to the graduation at Griswold High School, and we like that because it affords our students, now granted we're in this virtual world, but before COVID, to start kind of working with people in the community, and in some cases businesses. We have done a couple of deep dives with local colleges. So Erin and her team just worked with Three Rivers to talk about curricular connections. And I keep on saying this to people in the region. Griswold High School is a comprehensive high school. So we work with every single student. It's very, very personalized, whether you're at our alternative school, if you have an exceptionality. And for the past 2 years, and I think it's a tribute to the work that's going on there, we had students get early admissions to Ivy League institutions. This year, Brown University, last year, Princeton, and with last year, a full ride. So I think it speaks to our flexibility as a district to personalize, to make exceptional programs for all students, regardless of background and trajectory, and to work with you personally to get you where you need to go after you graduate.
Thank you.
Mr. Burrows, do you have anything else to
Yes,
ask?
I just want to make a comment. Of course, working with Sean McKenna has been just fantastic. He networks with all of the other superintendents. I can call him up at any time. The follow through is absolutely incredible. Erin is the same way. We really appreciate the work that and collaboration that the Griswold Public Schools complete with us. And, Kate and I and our first select woman have participated in meetings with Sean and their board chair and also their first select one over in Griswold. So there's a real collaboration. We really appreciate that. And I want to thank both of you for taking the time to give such a thorough presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you. I can only echo those sentiments. But we really, as a board, it's just great to, obviously we don't have all the time in the world to spend with our sending schools, but to have you in, we'd love to have you back on a more regular basis, maybe annually or what we can do, but especially in these trying times, it's so reassuring to hear directly from you and hear what you're working on and how obviously passionate you are about educating all of the students in Griswold. So kudos to you all for the hard work and just keep on doing great things, because we as Voluntown, we definitely appreciate our relationship with the Griswold schools, and know we have lots of strong future Griswold students coming your way. So, but thank you so much. If there's no more questions, we do appreciate the full hour you gave us.
Thank you.
Anytime, and we look forward to coming back.
All right, take care. All right. Well, that was a great presentation. I was really glad to hear from them all. So just getting on track for our regularly scheduled meeting, we have our consent agenda. Does anybody have any questions on any points of the consent agenda?
And Kate, just a point of order, we did not receive any citizens' comments prior to this meeting.
Right, I mentioned that before we
Did we? Okay,
yeah,
I must have missed
we did.
that. Thank you.
It's okay. I kind of obviously was trying to roll into the Griswold presentation, so thank you for reaffirming that.
I have something very briefly for the
Okay, Chris.
consent agenda. Thank you. It's about the Youth Service Bureau. Every meeting I always topics, and I'd like to mention specifically 4 Voluntown elementary students who right now sit on the Youth Service Bureau, participate in all the decision making, and their opinion is also very valued. There's Stephen Steninger, Anna Domino, Ariana Page, and Ella Malik. I'd also like to thank the staff of Voluntown Elementary School for getting, I can't imagine selling to kids, hey, you want to sit on a town board? Yet the school educators did that to these 4 students and others in the past. And I think it's fantastic. And I just want to mention that goes along with my civics theme that I'm very passionate about. So thank you, VES, for instilling this interest in these students.
Thank you for those comments, Chris. I agree with you. I think it's a great learning opportunity for the students themselves to be part of a committee such as the Youth Service Bureau, and likewise the valuable input that they add to that committee is so important. Are there any other points of comment for the committee reports? Or do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Chris, thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we can move on to the administrative reports. And we can start with the principal report. Mrs. Saffoletto.
I feel like every month goes by and I look at myself in the Zoom and I realize I need a haircut. Like after every 4 weeks that we meet on the meeting, I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get my haircut again. So we are, as Megan had said initially in the meeting, I don't know if Chris was on yet, but we celebrated the 100th day of school yesterday. So we've been in face-to-face minus those, few Wednesdays that we were out for 100 days. I often have people ask me, what model are you in? Are you hybrid? Are you remote? And, I say that we're all in. We are face-to-face, all in. That's what we value. We do have students who are home and remote. However, just in the past 2 weeks, I've had 9 students return from remote learning back into the classroom. So we're happy to have those kids transfer back in. It's been great. It was really a celebration for all of us. And we talked about it a lot on Tuesday on how, where we were in September opposed to where we are now, and our comfort level in September and our comfort level now. And sometimes, you know, you look back and you're like, why were we worried about X, Y, and Z? And why, you know, our kids have risen to the challenge, and our staff has risen to the challenge. I can't speak highly enough about either group or category, as well as our families and all the changes that we've made to make it this far in this time. So as we move forward, most recently, just a couple of notes, we've met on our recent PD day. Our ELA and our math committee came together separately, but together on the same day. And we really looked at what are we doing and what have we done as far as learning for our students, and then where are we going from now until the end of the year, making sure that we're continuing with those targets and being able to ensure that we're fulfilling the curriculum that we want. I think it's a little different for us because we've been in face-to-face. So we have come back. We are very much in the same path that we would have been in any other year because we've been back in school. So we every day are just very thankful for that. You know, being creatures of habit, you know, it's happy to, you know, you're happy to be able to do what you're used to doing. And so at those committee meetings, what we also talked about a lot was, and a lot the same things that Erin Polonen, you know, they target are the same things at the littler level that we target too. So, you know, we use our win time effectively for our students, and that's where we are scheduling our service providers, the extra support that kids need. So whether kids need extra support because of educational needs, or if they need extra support because maybe they're a little bit behind, this is where they're getting that support from their classroom teacher, the paraprofessional that's there, and any other on-duty staff. So we really are trying to employ anybody else who can help these kids. And I'm not going to use the word catch up because I don't think that they're behind in the sense because of COVID, but it's maybe because lack of exposure or needing to continue to work. So I'm happy of the progress that they're making. We recently took our STAR interim assessments in January, and that's our benchmark period. And during this period, we actually had a class that had to go out twice. So they missed part of the window and then back in the window. And STAR is one of those programs that you have to take it at the certain times. So then they came back and then they went out. So it was based on them coming back. We just finally wrapped up all our stragglers who may have missed from being in and out. But with STAR, so we took our STAR last year, you know, let's say September and January, and then we didn't take it in the spring. So we only have 2 data points from last year. And then as we come into this year, right now we're at 2 data points, which is what we typically have right now. So I'm happy with the progress that we're making. Our ELA math committee committees, we talk about our STAR and progress monitoring. We progress monitor our tier 2 students and our tier 3 students a little bit more frequently. We also take the time to make sure that we use where they're falling down in their skills on the STAR, whether it's in math and ELA, and try to target those in our intervention. So I just wanted to give that little update about STAR at the moment in time. In the end of June, we'll have those 3 data points, and we'll be able to see how the ebb and flow of the program is and where our kids scored. Right now, we are still projected to take SBAC. So there was a waiver put in, not from us, but from the state of Connecticut, to be able to not take into the federal government to not take the test. But we are moving forward as if we are taking SBAC. So that's grades 3 through 8. Students take the SBAC, and they take the science test now in grades 5 and 8. So they take that test also. That's the NGSS assessment. So, you know, we are prepared for that. We are preparing as we normally would prepare with our interim assessments they give us through the SBAC program. So we're at those pieces. We also recently met with our social studies and science committees. So it's basically the same people. We just renamed the committee, and then we talk about a different subject area on the same day. So we, you know, go through those pieces. And we've talked a lot about our science and our social studies integration into our ELA and our content areas. You know, my push this year was really reading, writing, and math, and filling in social studies and science in the lower grade, integrated into their reading. they do have a block, and they share that in our middle school. They have their science and social studies blocks, and then integrating that into ELA, being able to make sure that our kids are on point and targeting where they need to go. As far as a high school update right now, we are kind of spread all over the place. We have had some, Wheeler invited probably about 4 or 5 of our kids who wanted to go there to a private tour yesterday. So they went to a private tour of Wheeler. Some, based on that tour, accepted right off the bat because they were able to go there and see a school that they've never seen before and really enjoy it. So we've gotten acceptances back from Marine Science Magnet High School. Our tech schools have not rolled in yet, but NFA has sent us our finalized list. Our kids for NFA will take their, they do a math placement exam. So NFA will come to us in March and administer their NFA placement exam for our students, when they come. And anybody remote, they will administer it remotely for those kids. So anybody in 8th grade who will not come into the building will get it done remotely. I'm just looking over. I don't think there was really anything else. I know that Chris had given the plug for YSB. So that is always something. Melinda is always getting us programs. So we do have a couple more exciting programs coming up. Allison Page and Brian Rassico are collaborating on a program regarding vaping in grades 6 through 8. So that's going to be great to see and have and be able to share out to our community. So it's one of those programs that kids take the time and are invested in. I think overall, we have had a few more COVID cases come up. As you know, if you get school messenger, you hear my voice like every other day sometimes. Oh, and it snows. The last snow day, I was not happy. I told Adam, I said, if it doesn't snow, I'm going to lose my mind because it was supposed to, so luckily it did snow, and it was snowing when I went to school that day. So I was happy. And for anybody listening, those are really hard calls to make. And sometimes we think we can drive on the roads in our regular vehicles, which would be sure fine. But, I just urge the public to think about when you take a bus full of 40 kids that has to go up to Bailey Pond and then turn around up there. Sometimes that's a little tricky. And when it's icy and slippery. So those are the things that, when Adam calls and says, I'm not sure we can go in today. Those, really are the pieces, because I saw this interesting thing. It says, call me a fool 50 times, but you don't want to be fatal once. So, we err on the side of caution, and that is why. And kids enjoy snow days just as much as I'm sure teachers and parents do, and they don't have to go to school. So that was kind of the piece on that. Adam, is there anything else that you wanted me to address during this time? No? Okay.
I just want to say congratulations again on the 100th day. I just feel like that's such a huge, I don't know why. To me, that's just such a huge thing, you guys. I try not to speak too much about it because I don't want to, like tomorrow something. But I mean, I just feel like you guys at this point seem, at least from the outside, to be a well-oiled machine with this stuff. I'm sure you never felt like you would get there, but just congratulations. And it's just so, as a parent, it's just amazing.
I think it's, it's one of those things. And I know that it's hard for people to conceptualize, how are you in there? And, and I tell them, one, I have staff who want to return. So that's, they want to return and they feel okay returning based on what we have and the safety that we've put in place. They feel comfortable with their classrooms and the families in their classrooms. I think it's a very unique situation. So you're all lucky that, for those of you that have kids, that you're in this unique situation where they can come and return. And it is exciting, because you wouldn't think in September, you're panicked, and it gets easier over time. And I think hearing those COVID calls, and Valerie probably knows, because she probably gets a lot of them in her district, because she's in a big district. It becomes easier to digest and say, okay, I'll be contacted if something, so I think that, for the most part, we've survived. The kids have had a great time. Our small kids are excited because it's Valentine's Day tomorrow. So that's, they're going around saying that. So cute. So they're really excited, about those things. And once the spring comes, it'll be different. It'll be just like fall. We'll be able to go back outside and spend a lot more time outside. So
Right before this meeting started, I was saying to Dee Dee how grateful I am for the teachers in Voluntown. We haven't had the, I want a vaccine first, I want this first, we're not going back with this. There's been none of that. They've just been really supportive of all the kids
Yeah. Yep, they have. Thank you.
and stuff.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Amy. That it's always good to hear. But again, congratulations on the 100th day. Happy Valentine's Day. That's going to be great. So I know we will have our, as we've mentioned, we're part of the Reopen Committee meeting committee, and we meet now every other week, always keeping up abreast on what's happening within our district, within the health district. And it takes the village to really make it all work. So thank you so much for your help. And we just, take it day by day, right? That's all we can do. Okay. At that point, I think we can move on to the Director of Student Services. Mr. Johnson, you can give your update, please.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
A couple of quick little things. My department's busy moving records to the high schools of choice. My secretary electronically puts the packages together and sends them off. And so it's a very efficient transfer of information. She's begun also scheduling transition PPTs for our 8th graders with their schools of choice. Those will happen late March and into April. And so those are beginning to happen. I mentioned last month that there was an issue we wanted to address as a department. We have pupil personnel services for our young students who might be a little developmentally delayed in speech, OT, or PT. And we met as a department on the 15th of January, in the afternoon of the PD day, had a conversation about structuring that a little bit more. And what the consensus was is that once a student is identified as needing that service, and we've had a meeting with the family and they've agreed, that'll start a 12-month clock. And so a year of services will be provided. And if the student still needs the service past a calendar year, then the team will meet with the family either in a 504 accommodation meeting or an initial PPT to take a look at what information we might need to formally continue that service past that first year. So we've sort of tightened up the, I'll call it guidelines or regulations on the use of PPS services for kids, basically. And those are the only two issues I had to share with you this evening. If there are any questions, that'd be fine. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, great. Now we can move on to the superintendent report.
Yes, happy February. This week I had an anniversary and completed my 15th year as superintendent, the part-time superintendent in Voluntown. Things happen very quickly when you're having fun. My calendar for the months of February and March are in the packet for your review. Our enrollment is remaining steady, and for this year we have 254 students at the pre-K through 8th grade level, and we continue to have 129 high school students. So there's some stability in the enrollment figures. Our Return of funds to the town still remains at $16,215.20. Of course, over the next few months, there'll be some money coming in for some grants. We also included in the packet some policy highlights from CABE, and the January 22nd notice had leave policy for COVID-19 no longer in effect. They also had some special ed policy suggestions. The February 5th policy highlight talked about CABE posted district online policy manuals, and they've enhanced that. We do have our policies posted online with CABE, and as we approve them, we send them to CABE, and then they post them. So if you go to our website and you check on policies, you would be able to look at and have access to any one of the policies for our school districts. There's the CABE liaison newsletter that's been sent to the board members, and it was in your packet, and they have upcoming webinars, school leadership through effective policy, a new year, a lot has changed, a lot has happened, what can we do? But these are webinars that are available for the board if they wish to sign up. And as members of CABE, you're all eligible for free webinars. I sent you 24 pages of education-related bills that are being considered by the state legislature. And I just wanted to mention that during this time of education, it seems like there's more and more being legislated, to work with legislators seeking to improve the quality of education. Of course, we will have to see what happens as the legislators go through this. One of the things that our board has always been interested in is if something is passed as a mandate, will it be funded or unfunded? I could go down through the 24 pages of policies, but I just thought for information purposes, this would allow you to see the range of topics and other things that the state legislators are considering. And over the next few months, as they go through their session, you'll hear more and more, and the list of proposed bills will dwindle as some of the ones that they really want to approve would rise to the surface. So this is for your information. I wanted to mention I received a notice and the 25th annual CABE Student Leadership Awards are again open for nominations, and I've sent the brochure over to Amy and the staff, and they have a system for selecting 2 students, and it's due in March, but hopefully by the end of the year, the Board of Education can recognize and award 2 students for their leadership abilities. I just received earlier today an email from NFA, and it was from Ross Swad, the principal of Terrell House at NFA. And it indicated that Madison Collins has been selected as one of 7 students recognized for academic excellence as a student of the month for January 21st. And Madison has shown great dedication, motivation, determination through this entire pandemic. She is always one of the first students in class, remains positive through all situations. She just recently accidentally was left out of a group that she worked very hard to be involved with. Instead of complaining to other students or to teachers, she very calmly asked to talk to me one-on-one and politely asked why she was left off the list. I was very proud of the way that Madison stood up for herself in such a positive and respectful way. And they just wanted to say that she serves as a great role model for other students in the class. She will, really participate. So I will send a letter on behalf of the Board of Education commending Madison Collins, 12th grader, for her selection and award at NFA. We've been talking about the school lunch program. In the consent agenda, it noted that 4,619 meals in total were served during the month of January. And as I indicated before, we made some modifications, and because of those meals served, we will get a reimbursement check of $12,883.49. And if this trend continues, as I mentioned before, our school lunch program should be able to finish, with a very small balance. The other thing to consider is that we are not charging the students for lunch. This is all paid for by initiative of the, U.S. Department of Agriculture in an effort to help families during this time of the pandemic. So our initial adjustments have really helped, and I hope that I can bring additional funds and information to you based on the meals served this month of February. I just received an update just yesterday, and it was related to the COVID relief expenditures. And, we received $176,699. And the reason I'm bringing up this memo is it talks about the timeline, and it indicates, when the costs have to be incurred, which was December 30th of 2020. And then end of date for paying these costs is October 31st of this year. And then the last COVID relief fund grant payment to the school district will come in at December 30th of this year, 2021. I want to inform the board that we were very diligent in this whole process, and we have already received the direct funds of the $176,699. We received on December 28th, $41,189.37. And then on January 27th, we received $135,449.63. We have followed all of the procedures for this reimbursement. This was a grant that was quite different from other grants. I want to thank Rachel Ricard and Darlena Loringer for their financial skills in processing the money and work with that. I also want to thank Brian Callio because there were many activities, and I have to thank the Board of Education because you made decisions last fall that allowed us to proceed with implementing the expenditure of these funds. And there's been newspaper articles and other things written that we're getting these extra grants now, and what happens when the money goes away? Well, I've mentioned this before. If we are upgrading the facilities, such as we finished the air conditioning of the schools with these outside funds, we upgraded some ventilation systems, we upgraded vans in the gymnasium. These are all things that we needed to do to make sure that the air quality in the school is excellent and they are improvements. And if we've paid for this with outside funds, then down the road, the local taxpayer is not going to be hit with these expenditures. So I just thought it was very interesting that these items would occur. And of course, we had our remote learner teacher who was paid for by these funds, extra custodians. There were PP, personal protective equipment, and other things that we expended using these funds. We have documented every purchase order, every invoice, and we qualified for the full reimbursement of every dollar. And of course, Amy was involved in also purchasing materials and other things that would help during this time of COVID relief. As you know, there's a lot of requirements for this, but I'm not sure if we're the first ones that completed this. But I will tell you that we try to watch our financial expenditures very carefully and spend a lot of time monitoring every expenditure. And as your superintendent, I sign every purchase order. Now, most other school districts have a business manager. We do not have a business manager. So in my part-time work as a superintendent, I also serve as the business manager. And sometimes other superintendents are very surprised by that. But I must say that we went through that. Now, there was an article in the paper recently because it said there's a certain town that the auditor canceled the contract with the town. And there were 10 towns that were named here that requested auditing extensions. So in the middle of processing this COVID relief fund, we also completed our annual audit, and we used the same auditor as the town. So we were able to complete our auditing program as well as process the COVID relief funds. Now, they're going to release another grant, and we are now qualified to receive $144,864 in an ESSER II emergency relief fund. This means that over the next year, we will be able to look at other projects that need to be done to further help our building be safe, and also work with, enhancing student learning. One of the portions of this grant, and they haven't released the grant application yet, but we are reviewing how we can identify children and extend learning opportunities for students. So as we develop the grant, we will again develop another list of things that we will share with the board to let you know how we would spend these funds. And this fund is a direct drawdown. They place the money in our grants management system, and then we write purchase orders against that, and the money is automatic, versus the COVID relief fund, which required expenditures and then receiving reimbursement. And I look forward to this because I like to move pretty quickly with grants. And this will also play a role in how we again look at future items that might be expensive. One of the things that this grant is very concerned about is that air quality within the schools. And I know that we have a couple of air handlers on the roof that are much older. Well, we were going to eventually replace those, but if we have outside funds that I can use, then we can get this done sooner than later. And some people say, well, we're getting all of these grants and then there's going to be a cliff and we're going to have to make up the difference. I don't adhere to that theory. It's my belief that if we're paying for things now that need to be done and they enhance the safety and educational programs of the students, then we do that. And these are grants that aren't going to come back because we're going to maintain our regular education budget for funding the program. And you can't use these funds to supplant current expenditures and budgetary items. So it's an interesting type of thing, but I hope that this will help us develop a very steady local education budget. So this is called the ESSER 2 funds. And again, that number was 144,000. There's additional funds that will eventually be coming into the school. We submitted some formats for $190,368.58 for the cost of the oil tank replacement. And we receive reimbursement for eligible expenditures. And I always thought that our expenditure would be $65,000 to maybe $70,000. So that means that we stand a chance if the state approves all of the many pages of every expenditure that we spent on the oil tank. And we submitted all of the things, such as one of the things that the state wants is when did the Board of Education make a motion to approve the oil tank as completed, and you did that last year. So we have to submit the minutes and all of the documentation that shows that we covered each one of the steps. So this is money that would be coming directly back to the town that the town had already put aside in a fund to pay for the oil tank. So this is how we complete larger projects based on available school construction reimbursement rates. And right now, our reimbursement rate is at 65%. One final thing. Chris, you're going to like this. We are not going to get an $89,000 cut in our ECS grant. There was a motion, there was a proposal by the governor yesterday, and I'm getting two different numbers. The school finance project, which is an outside group, states that we will continue getting the same amount we got this year in the next 2 years. So that means that they're keeping us at $2,117,243, okay? But that's from the school readiness, that's from the school finance project, which is an outside group that publishes documents. In the governor's proposal, and this was on the conference of the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities booklet, they indicated a number that was higher than that 217. And that they wanted to give, it's listed right now, it's not approved, but it's projected at $2,189,675, which is $74,432 more than we're receiving this year. And these are numbers that are just came in like last night. The other thing that's happening is that's our ECS grant. The Voluntown, the town of Voluntown is projected to get $228,481 as an allocation for a distressed community. And one of the portions of that is that we have the pilot program that we've been underfunded at. And they looked at some of the things that were happening, and this was something that they wanted to help us out with. So we are actually receiving in the governor's proposal an increase in the state funding to Voluntown. Now, these are all just proposals, and we'll look over the next few months to see what's going to happen and what's the final results. but I think that this will help us in the development of our budget, and certainly help with the local property taxpayer. But again, we have to give you what we feel is the best budget proposal for educating our students and the current population. So that's a big, long list of things, and I appreciate your following through, but most of this stuff has just come out within the last day or two. And I think that I was very concerned about what was happening, and this is helpful news in this time of COVID-19. I don't know whether anybody has any questions or comments. Okay.
A quick question on that grant that you said, the new grant coming in. I know you tried to get a van as part of the previous.
I'm going to talk about that when we talk about the budget, Megan.
Okay.
That's in the first sentence. So I think that's the next topic.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you're going to try for that again under this new grant.
I can't try for that under this grant. We have to talk about what might be the best way to do that. And that's going to be an interesting topic.
All right, sounds good.
So Adam, the question that I had, I was looking at the School Readiness Council and the fact that there was a grant for $198,000 for the Office of Early Childhood Education for 2021. I know that one of the things that we've been talking about is the fact that our preschoolers don't have transportation right now. Is that something that for next year, we're going to have that additional money to be able to provide transportation for the preschoolers, or is that still?
We talked about that, and we are not required to provide preschool transportation. But as you know, when I said that we're all in K through 8, the preschool is on a hybrid schedule that is working quite effectively. And we have every indication that we want to continue with that. And transportation for preschool is in the budget for next year. The other thing that's happening is within the grant, that $198,000, there were several $1,000s in there, Valerie, for meals, because as part of the grant, it pays for a family style lunch for our preschoolers. Well, we are sending food home with all children. And one of the things that we're looking at is our NEASC accreditation. And one of the things I mentioned to Amy the other day is that, we might need a gazebo out in the playground for our preschool. As you know, the preschool playscape was paid for by that grant several years ago. And the expansion of the preschool, one of the preschool classrooms several years ago was completely paid for by a special grant. I had to apply for that 3 years in a row, but we finally got it. So we're looking at expending the $198,000, but the transportation was paid for by our local budget, not the preschool grant. And that would be in our transportation budget for this year. And we hope to continue that. Now, I'm going to say it again, to get the $198,000, we are required to have 44 students. And if we only have 36 Voluntown students, then we open it up to non-residents. We do not provide transportation for non-residents. But if you had 8 students, then you would have to multiply that by 4,500. And if we didn't accept the non-residents, then I would have to increase our regular budget, because we would still need those funds, to run the classroom. So there's a balancing act there. The other thing is with the school readiness grant, when I write about our local budget, one of the requirements of the grants is to show that you have explained to the citizens of the local community that the $198,000 helps support almost all of the preschool program. But in addition to the $198,000, we do supply out of our local budget special education services, speech, language, or other services, OT or PT if needed. So all of these are blended together. Nice, good question, Valerie.
Okay, with that, I think we've kind of done a nice job of tackling parts of number 2 on old business, Adam, but if we want to move into item number 1, the budget preparation process.
Yes, last month I gave you a budget proposal of 1.57%, and it was about $106,000. And I just moved it down a little bit to $86,976. And what happened was I took out the van that I had listed for $34,701. And Megan just mentioned that. We have an older van and we have to think of a way to replace that. And rather than put it in the budget for next year, I was looking at some of the balances. Now, please remember, I know that there's a lot of newspaper articles saying that, you know, school districts are going into deficit spending and other types of things, but we have tried to strategically do things to live within our 2021 school budget, the allocation for this year. So we had a retirement of a paraprofessional mid-year, and we rearranged the schedule, did not affect student services, and we did not hire an additional person. And you know, this year we're not paying for the preschool transportation because, well, Amy had to put them on a little bit different schedule. We couldn't put them on the bus with social distancing requirements. We couldn't have them arriving at school at the same time, and we strategically protected the students with a number of approaches. So I might be able to purchase the van out of this year's budget. And that's something that I need to monitor. And quite frankly, we're going to have to be making a decision about that soon because, you know, we go out and we check prices, and there are state bid prices, and that's what this price is on a van. And that's one of the best prices you could get for a 10-passenger van. But if the board wants me to go to bid, then I will send out the bid and follow that process. But that's something that we have to work with over the next few months. Now, there were the changes. We got the information about tuitions at the high schools. So the change from the 114 meeting was in 3 areas. In the regular ed tuition account, we had to increase that by $8,261. And in the special ed tuition account, we had to increase that by $6,781. So that then we decreased the purchase of the van. So that's how we got to the $86,976. And it still includes all negotiated salaries, projected outplacements, tuition, the cost of health insurance at 8%. We still don't know what that increase will be, hopefully within the next month or two. Projected energy costs, and that $86,000 increase also includes the foreign language teacher. Now, I know just based on what's happening over the next few days, I'm going to have to go through and change some of the program descriptors, and I will have to change some of the accounts. And it's in the March meeting that we have traditionally done non-renewal of some non-tenured teachers. And we will have to come back to you in March with staffing. So I think that there's going to be several changes in this budget proposal just based on student population, what's happening with teacher assignments, and also if there are any projected retirements or changes in staffing. And we're working on proposing those. But the issue here is that this budget for this month is almost like a placeholder. I just had 3 changes, but next month is going to be the significant changes. And then next month is annually the budget that the Board of Education approves. So next month, we're going to have to spend some time on budget, and I am going to have to give you a bottom line that I think, you should approve so that we can bring to the public hearing in April. And then at the April meeting, the board reviews what the public has said, and then the board would take another vote on the budget if there's any changes, and send that into the town hall for the public to review. And then while we're doing that, the state is making decisions about how much money that we will be receiving, and from there, the town would determine what the mill rate might be. But just like last year, when we prepared for this year, the things that you did last March and April made a difference for this year. And there might be some things, again, that the board can do that can repeat it. How close to 0 can we get? I hope to give you, an answer for that, but I do want to make sure that the education program and the supplies and materials, transportation, and what we need to run this school district is presented to you as a board so that you can make decisions. Are there any questions at all? Next month's the big meeting.
Yeah, I have one. About the van, I think absolutely we should go out to bid. And we shouldn't buy anything without the van, we should go out to buy anything without a competition of people to sell us a product.
Chris, your voice was coming in and out. I don't know whether other people had that or not.
Chris is saying that we should definitely go out to bid on that van because
okay, then
we have some competition and hopefully help that.
Okay, then I will develop the specs and so we can do that so the board can consider it. I'm not sure the time frame on that, but certainly by the end of the year, and then the board can have some decision-making power on that. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, the other thing is coming off of the meeting with Cave last month, I would like you to, obviously try to see if there are any prepaids that we can do this year with some of the overages. Like you mentioned, the one of your preschool teachers' salary was paid for by the grant for COVID, I believe you mentioned.
Both preschool teachers are paid for by the grant.
School readiness grant.
The remote teacher for the other grades is paid for by the COVID relief funds.
Right.
And if we have ESSER funds coming in, then we might be able to get reimbursement for that as well. Yes.
Yeah, I would just, it seems like, I know last year you were able to, I think you prepaid almost 900,000, I think, right?
No, it was transferring funds.
Correct.
From one account to the other based on needs, such as if we have a $60,000 special ed tuition that shows up, I need to move 60,000. One of the biggest things we did was we put money together and made a $95,000 payment for the buses.
Correct.
And that's what helped us. So
right, and so that's what I'm just hoping that maybe we can do something like that again this year to
every effort will be made for that. Somebody said, gee, are we going to overexpend our budget this year? And right now, the way that I'm looking at that, and you can look at it in the function object report, we're okay. And if there's any need that I have to look at some potential running over the budget, then I would go on essential spending. I never have freezed a budget in my life. I've always moved to essential spending because we have to run the school district and pay teachers. But there's approaches with essential spending that you can encumber money in different accounts until you know what the actual final expenditure is going to be.
Right. Yep. And I'm just hoping that if there are pockets of, even if, it's a couple hundred here, 1,000 there, and we can use some of that to offset anything that we need to for the upcoming year, I'd like to do that again and try to keep it another zero budget for the town.
Well, and if the budget can go this way, then that offers stability for the local taxpayer, which is very important, Megan. Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And we can still do very creative things with what's happening with our budget. There's ways to go about that to meet the needs of students. One of the big things too is that this budget includes a foreign language teacher. So, and that's going to be one of the final decisions that the board will make for this year.
Does this budget include the temporary teacher we have to help with the distance learning?
Our current budget, Chris? Yes, our current budget. Current budget includes
the one for next year.
Oh, for next year.
Yes, does the
not at this point, because when we looked at the ESSER 2 funds coming in, those funds, that's the 144,000. So that if we write a grant, and I haven't received the grant at this point, but what I would do is looking at and Lloyd and I would review the remote learner things. And then if this is a temporary thing, I would include that in the grant, and we've had success. We got $56,000 in staffing. The other thing that was temporary was the custodian. So if we need to continue with cleaning. So I'm looking at these outside grants, not to supplant our school budget, because you can't do that. You have to purchase things for COVID relief. And that was the basis of those funds from the federal government and the state. And when we write the grant, just like the last time with the COVID relief fund, I gave you a list of $260,000 worth of stuff, and I tried to get the van out of that, and the state wouldn't approve it. So, that's the race that we're running. So it's an interesting question, Chris, but let's hope that COVID can subside, over the next year. Because we're doing some things that other school districts aren't doing. There's very few school districts in this state that have been all in for almost all 100 days. I don't have the exact number, but we've been very successful with that. And when I go to superintendent's meetings and I say we've been all in, it gathers some looks. There have been some communities where people came into the board and demanded going on remote learning. And as a community, they decided that they wanted to go on remote learning, and the board implemented that. Our board is of a different viewpoint. We want our kids safely in school, and we want to do everything we can to meet their needs. And we're strategically working with that. What we did last March, we can look at and see if we can repeat so that our kids can get something that I feel is very unique.
So Adam, I just had one question with respect to the foreign language teacher. I know that we had brought that up and talked about maybe sharing the foreign language teacher within another school. After speaking with Griswold, I think it's even more so at the forefront of my mind because they have a Spanish 5 honors, a biliteracy seal, and our kids are excluded from that now because they don't have, as far as I know, any Spanish to be able to walk into Griswold with. Have you looked into sharing with another district?
Amy Lloyd and I have talked about sharing and other types of things. Our big thing at this point of the time is to get the full cost of the foreign language teacher in the budget and review that. But as we explore, there were 2 other school districts that were having a very difficult time finding a shared foreign language teacher. And I was looking at some of the things. I haven't talked to them recently to see what their success rate is, but sharing of a teacher like that may be of benefit, Valerie, and that's not off the table. So as we look at this and we look at the budget, you know, we need to take a look, and this has been a long-term thing that the board has wanted to do for many, many years. So that's not off the table at all.
Okay. Well, it looks like we've got our work cut out for next meeting, especially on the budget end of things.
Yeah. Next meeting is going to be a budget meeting.
Okay. We're all good on that for now. You did move quite extensively through the COVID updates, but is there any other last points for that?
I think that you covered that. We just got the release for the vans, and we went through the initial round and put in the names of people on staff who were 75 years or older. And just yesterday, they released the availability for 65 and older. And quite frankly, that is the largest group of people, you know, within that range. And I've been hearing stories of people getting in the system, and they're saying, yeah, you can get your first shot at the end of April. So I think you'll be hearing some things about this. Hopefully, they can, you know, increase the availability of the vaccine. But that's a big item. And I must say that, you know, we have had some contact tracing if there is, you know, a COVID-19 issue. And just yesterday, we had some students at 1 grade level and some staff members who had been on remote, and they successfully returned. So we've had 3 instances, right, Amy, with having to quarantine groups, and they've been quarantined and they've successfully returned. And the contact tracing showed that it was a contact outside of the school, not within the school. So our protocols are working. We've been very diligent with that in classes, during lunch, on the recess, on the buses. Each one of those items contribute to keeping things safe for children, and that's the utmost of utmost importance. So we've been doing well and holding our own. But if there's ever a surge and we have to move to remote learning, I think that we have the skills and capabilities of doing that. And Amy and the staff and Jim Ward, our technology consultant, and Lloyd and his staff have been very diligent in making sure that we maintain some diligence to be able to make this change in a moment's notice.
Mm-hmm. And kudos go out to our school nurse, Linda Hansen. She's been a wonderful addition to our staff.
Fantastic, yes.
It just based on our work on the reopen committee meeting and all the feedback that we hear, it's great to have such a, you know, seamless transition to a new staff member that's so qualified and so caring with our kids, especially and parents during this difficult time. So really nice shout out to her. Okay, so I think we've moved on to item number 3 for old business. This is the bylaw 9327 spot 1, the board member use of internet social networks. This is our second reading.
Yes, there was a request for just a legal review on if this imposes on freedom of speech, I believe, and I just have a brief statement from our attorney. Freedom of speech as a board member. If you are speaking to the board, but if you want to write a letter expressing an individual point of view, you can do that. But you have to make sure that this is not speaking for the Board of Education. And then as you read through the policy, you will see that there are restrictions on social meetings or internet meetings. And that's why that we have protocols to make sure that we're not conducting communications with a quorum of board members unless there's a subcommittee that is working explicitly on something, but we generally keep our board membership to that at 3 members. So the specifics within the policy itself, board members need to operate within the appropriate guidelines. They need to be aware of obligations and requirements. Use of social networking must be limited. And they have to be mindful of a definition of public record. And if there are some things that look like there's been decisions regarding the board, it could be considered part of the public record. Board members can to follow through with postings. Board members may not use online websites to communicate with one another about official board business. That's why we've given you each, your individual, emails. So within the written policy itself, there are some, carefully crafted guidelines. And then of course it does list the 12 social media guidelines for board members. So this is a second reading of the policy, and unless some board members have any specific questions.
Yeah,
I have
my
a
question.
problem
Sorry,
with the
Chris?
thank you. I have a problem with quite a bit of it, frankly. The board members meeting electronically. That could be as preventing party members from meeting in a caucus to formulate a position before a meeting, which is entirely permissible and does not fall under meeting rules. Also, while even the language of where you can't use personal, social, racial, or religious attacks, I would find any of those personally disgusting and not do it. However, this being the United States of America, if people want to embarrass and frankly, in my mind, degrade themselves by going after somebody in that manner, so be it. And it's up for the voters to decide whether that board member stepped out of line or not a policy saying what we can and cannot talk about. Also, there's language about district employees, which we absolutely are not. We are elected officials, not answerable to any of the district employee of command. We're answerable to the voters of Voluntown. So while I agree with the legally, if we meet and discuss things in public as a board, that would not be permissible, but the rest of it, I think, could be construed in many ways. It's just totally unacceptable to me.
Is there a specific line in the policy that you wanted to change, Chris?
Well, I'd pretty much just not want to accept any of it.
But number one clearly states that you have to, when you can do whatever you want when you're identifying yourself not as a board member. You can't be identifying yourself as, at the board, we decided, even at caucus meetings, you don't go and say, oh, we're all going to vote this at the Board of Ed meeting. You're deciding on candidates and stuff. I don't see anything here that it says you're only posting about the school, what is approved. You're not going to go on and say, oh, we're going to have a budget of 2 million and what we're really going to have is 3 million. I mean, as a board member, you can't identify yourself as a board member and saying certain things.
Yeah, the problem is how this is written is it's too vague. It's like, so number one, clarify that the communication is as an individual member of the board and not in the role of an official district spokesperson. If I want to go on my personal Facebook, I should not have to preface everything that I say that might be school related with, this is my own personal opinion and not the opinion of the school board. And so even though that may not be the intent of what is written, that's basically what number one says I have to do.
Well, do you have some written recommendations then for this policy?
I mean, you know, my personal opinion, honestly, is just if this is a bylaw, this is something that CABE recommends. I personally don't even think we should have it. If it's not required, we shouldn't have it because quite frankly, most of this stuff is not enforceable. Like Chris said, we don't report, you know, we are elected officials, you know, that doesn't go without consequence, but for the most part, what's really the repercussions of if we were to express an opinion that somebody didn't agree with?
Yeah, Dee Dee, do you have the required list with you? Is this a required bylaw?
It is not a required one. I believe it was just a
So
recommended.
we don't have to have it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why they recommend it. One, I think it's not written properly, and two, I really don't think it's enforceable, and I don't think we should be having stuff that's not really enforceable. It's just a waste of time, honestly.
I think it's, I agree with you that I think there is a lot of flaws in the wording of it. I think there's things to be thought about. I mean, I wouldn't mind breaking off on a sub, just as our policy committee, Megan, to review it a little bit further. I think at this point, none of us are comfortable as presented, and we can make a decision between now and next meeting on whether we even want to pursue it, because the way it's written. I mean, I'd be open, because this falls in line with Code of Ethics as well, which we already have.
We have many policy suggestions that are sent to us by CABE, and it's up to the board to either say yes or no.
Yeah. And as Chris said, you know, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination condoning somebody going onto social media and doing any of this stuff. I just think, you know, there's such, it's so gray that to put a policy in place, and, you know, Kate, you and I can definitely talk about it offline as part of our committee. I just think we're going to have a really tough time. You know, we might just come up with like 5 bullet points of here, you know, this isn't intended to impede your ability to express yourself on social media, but this is what we recommend you follow, you know, and kind of just leave it super vague like that. That would be the only way I think we would really be able to do something like this.
I think maintaining confidentiality is hard, fast, and clear. It's about students and it's about employees. You can't be.
That's enough, yeah. That's
yeah, but I mean, you don't have to have a policy to say that. I mean, I think is kind of where I'm going, is you don't have to have a policy to say that. That's a legal, ethical situation.
Does anybody have does anyone know a workplace where you don't sign some kind of confidential thing about talking about your clients and students? I think every teacher, every doctor, every nurse, every board, you know, we're a small enough town. When they talk about somebody, we talk about a certain student, you know who it is, and it's really not out there to disseminate to
Yeah,
everybody.
but Kathy, this is a social media policy. This is not a confidentiality policy. This is social media and people's ability to.
Well, it's also email too, Megan. It's also email.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I understand that, but I'm just saying, again, if somebody is having a conversation in their email, that's still protected. And that whole confidentiality piece is completely separate from this, as just being a board member. But I think,
I think confidentiality is covered more in your code of ethics.
Correct.
So as a teacher, I'm not signing something that says I'm not going to
Correct.
disclose information about a student, but that's in my code of ethics with what I, am qualified to do. So to have a separate policy for that, I kind of agree that this is reaching way more than what it should. It's a very overreaching policy.
I'm just curious. I think I want to do a little digging what we have generally on a public social media platform in general, what type of policies or bylaws are out there for this. This just doesn't sit well with many of us. So I think, Megan, I'll just put it aside that we for the policy committee, we can take a look. Is that you, me, and Arica? I forget.
I think it's actually just you and I.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, we got it. All right. So,
yeah, and I will say from a employer standpoint, you aside from threatening on social media, you cannot discipline an employee for putting anything on social media. They could literally go and smear a company on their personal Facebook page, and there is not a single thing that the employer can do about it. And I know this is a little different, students and things like that, but there's just so many protections about this kind of thing. I just think it's worth having that conversation.
I was going to say both Lawrence and Bacchus have fired people for putting things on social media.
we
have one in court.
Yeah, maybe that's something in their union. They have a union contract. I'm talking about at-will employees.
No, even Bacchus wasn't always unionized. I know DeVita had problems too, because you can, if they say something, you can go after them. People can
I'm talking about smearing the company. I'm not talking about HIPAA and things like that.
No, I'm talking about smearing the law. You can go after them.
It is against the law. It's their protected right to post whatever they want on their social media, unless they're threatening somebody or threatening a building or
whatever.
Can't go after somebody. I mean, they can. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So we're not going to make a motion on it tonight or anything. So we'll move on, and Megan, you and I can address it and work with Dee Dee on whatever questions we have around surrounding policies that might be more appropriate. We have a slew of new policies. I'm not sure. There's really small, short policies. If you've had a chance to look at them, I think we're pretty. They all seem to be just minor changes or edits to existing policy. So we'll move to the 4212 spot 42 drug and alcohol testing for student school bus drivers.
That's just an update with the policy. It's a required policy for updating testing for bus drivers. I think there's not too many words that are changed in that. Did we have that in the packet?
It looked good.
Yeah, it's just adding the
have to have it
clearinghouse to it.
The clearing.
The information in bold are the changes. So this is just a first reading, but the requirements for bus drivers are mandated, and there's updated. So since we especially own our own bus company, we have to follow through with this.
But once in a while, we contract at them. with current
Once in a
nurses.
while, yes.
And that's why I'm glad they're included in this as contractors. They have to have the same standard.
Yeah.
We end up contracting out transportation sometimes.
We just have one contracted agreement with transportation because we have a student who rides a bus on from Griswold, and we split the cost on that.
Yeah, and in the past, we've had Curtin and stuff driving a child to New Haven and et cetera.
Yes.
So, are our people all trained on EpiPens?
Yes, they have to be.
They are.
That came through about 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion, or do we want to think about this more, carry the discussion?
I think it looks good. We've added some good tightening.
I'll make a motion if it pleases the chair and the board.
Second.
Okay, motion Chris, second by Kathy. All in favor to approve policy 4212, spot 42 as written. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving to policy 6161, spot 3, comparability of services.
This is a required policy, and when you complete your application for Title I funds, you have to say, do you have a comparability of services policy? And we say yes. But guess what? I can remember when I was principal in my former position, they also gave me the assignment of being responsible for Title I for the whole district. And there were 5 schools, and they were all doing all of the work to comply with Title I standards. And I said, why don't we have Title I in one school and we have comparability of services in another, so that one school winds up completing all of the documentation for the grant. And this policy just says if you have more than one school, what you offer in Title I in one school will also be in the other, but we only have one school. So it's like a catch-22. Do you have a comparability of services? Yes, we do, but we don't have another school that we have to, fund locally. So this is for the SRBI program. This is pretty standard, and just talks about equivalence of schools, but it helps me check the box on the grant to say we have comparability of services.
And I see it added federal everywhere. We didn't have federal in the policy before.
We didn't have what?
Federal in the policy. This has federal added in.
Yes,
Federal, state,
yes, that's right. We added federal, and that's where the Title I funds come from. As a matter of fact, the ESSER 2 grants, I believe, were 4 times our Title I grant. That's how they determined that number, the 144,000.
None.
I'm comfortable with it. Does anybody have anything else to add? Sounds like there's not much more discussion on this. Do we have a motion to approve it?
Motion.
The second?
Second,
Chris, thank you. Okay, all in favor to approve policy 6161, spot 3 as written?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving to item number 3, policy 6159, individualized education program, special education, first reading.
The only change in this is that we have to service students until age 22, correct, Lloyd?
It's almost 10 o'clock. You can do it in the morning. You can plug it in.
Yes, that's because of the judicial ruling last June. The only interesting thing is the state of Connecticut was appealing it, but I don't know if that appeal has been dropped or they lost the appeal. But this updates the law to be in alignment with that judicial decree.
Of 22 years old.
Yep.
Yep.
Not the year they turned 22, but their actual birthday.
So are you comfortable, Lloyd, that we do have a finalized policy on this until verification that there was a any change, or?
Yeah, I think if CABE put this out, then I think they've accepted the fact practically that this has to be the guidelines we have until it gets changed. So I'm comfortable that this is a prudent thing to do.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any other discussion from members? Do we have a motion to approve it as highlighted and changed?
Motion.
Thank you, Valerie. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Megan? All in favor to approve 6159 on IEP's special education and the highlighted changes?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That's it for policy for the evening. Phew.
Got some of them off the list.
Well, we know we're gonna have a tough meeting next one, so I guess it's good to kind of get where we can with these. Item number 4 is the CAPS blueprint. Adam, if you wouldn't mind giving us a little highlight on this, it was kind of extensive.
The Superintendent's Association had been studying for a while, and they came out with recommendations and developed this blueprint. And there are some talking points with this, but it just really worked with several areas: ECS, the state share, equity, school improvement, leadership, intergovernment issues. And what they wanted to do was, just offer a statement that this is our vision of what we would like to review and study. And I believe there's 30 issues that are in here. And I did not want to not give this to the board because this may be referenced in the newspaper or reviewed, and even CABE might have some workshops on this in cooperation with CAPS. But the superintendent's organization just determined that they would like to create position statements on these 30 items. Measuring success, student health and safety. They also put down that they would like to see some 2.5% increase with the ECS from the state funding to make sure that they're not cutting this and placing a burden on the local taxpayer. So this is just good information. Unless you have any questions on it. If it does come up, then you'll know what that is. And as we go through our budget, you'll read through this. There's some things that we're doing, such as, Amy just talked about star reading, measuring success. Well, we have our ways that we measure our success. Student well-being, curriculum instruction, governance, school district improvement. Of course, we have one in there for mandated wavering mandates. So you can read it, and I think that there's a lot of familiar items that we've already discussed throughout the course of our annual board agenda.
Yeah, there was some interesting thing about the minimum education requirements and changing the teacher retirement thing
Yes.
and stuff.
Okay, well, yeah, there's a lot to chew on there. I think if at least we have a first view of it, and as we hear bits and pieces, either if it's, here or in the newspaper, it's good to kind of understand what they're referring to.
I have to make a comment because I attended a workshop with 10 legislators and about 25 superintendents the other day. And one of the legislators said, "Oh, you're asking for 2.5% per year increase from the state over the next few years. Are you asking 2.5% from the local property taxpayer?" And I had to bite my tongue because what we've had to do over the last 4 years with absorbing the state cuts in the ECS has been incredible. And, if anything, I think that the local taxpayers are throughout the state, especially in the eastern region of the state, have had to make up for some of the things that are happening with the state. That's why I was really happy to get the results of the governor's proposal yesterday, that they would hold us harmless and even perhaps increase the ECS funding, which is what we need, because we've had to shift the burden on the local taxpayer. With ECS over the last several years, the local taxpayer has had to pay like 6% more of the budget than we did, because there haven't been any increases. There have been decreases in ECS. So it's a real balancing act with what's happening. For my editorial.
Thank you for that.
It was interesting reading the things. There are problems I don't even think about.
It kind of echoed some of the work that Griswold's doing in terms of working with the data assessments and what their strategic planning is as a school system. Then you think about it as an entire, state's school district. It's mind blowing, all of the levels. So initiatives, they all seem, lofty and so forth. But I think I do feel at least a little bit relieved to see some of the reworking of ECS and trying to reinterpret how best to equitably service those type of funds. So I know that's something you work very hard at, Adam, on our behalf. So just to see it more broadly is relieving, frankly.
I was listening to an NPR thing this is just more back to budget. Are we going to need more support for summer school? Our new Secretary of Education was talking about that. That's
yes.
Sounds like we won't, because we have been all in, but are our high school students going to need more help? And then they have to pay their own tuition and transport. I'm not sure how that works, but he was saying that many schools are going to need a much more robust summer program than what usually is presented than may have been happening. It doesn't sound though, Amy, like we're too off our usual mark.
Well, earlier I mentioned with the ESSER 2 funds, the $144,000 that we haven't coming in, they haven't sent out the grant applications. They just distributed the allocations. But within that component, we'll be looking at, some kind of form of an extended summer school. We already do our regular summer school, and that's in our year-to-year budget. And what we'll do is take a look, and we may assign some of the ESSER 2 funds to summer school. And that's not the regular budget, but that's with these monies that we're intending to get. And I think that we can write it up so that they'll approve that allocation.
Oh, that'd be good. It's just, he
Yeah.
was talking about that extensively.
Well, I would think even additional cleaning support, if it's going to be in, at the school, you wouldn't normally have to have that level of cleaning between, classes or at lunchtime and things like that. You're still going to need the custodian support, I would think.
Oh, yes, yes,
But
correct.
that was just something that I've been reading about. And I know Scott, when he was here, was saying about how much trouble his daughter's having. And she can't be the only kid in Voluntown having trouble, I don't think, that may need summer work to get back to where they want to be.
Yeah, so I think, it's something we will definitely need to just keep in topic on the budget of what we're looking at for summer school. Just in the respect of time, I know we have a few more items here. We got a notice for the school, use the school facility for the farmer's market.
Yes, Jack Wesser needs to have board approval. He uses this to submit a grant for the farmer's market. Of course, if he does come in, this is during the summer, we're projecting that perhaps everything would open up so that there could be an event based on COVID-19 subsiding. But it's outside, it's not inside, and there may be ways that they could have something just based on social distancing and other types of things. But they have the farmer's market in the front of the school.
I'll make that motion for Jack to have the farmer's market.
I'll second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We love the farmer's market, and we hope everybody can
Yeah.
safely do that.
Yeah.
They ran last summer.
Yeah.
Okay, item number 6, the last item under new business, Adam, is the J1 request. That's a,
Yes, we had a
Revisit.
request last year for a J1 student to attend NFA, and the board was reviewing that. And then the COVID came and they shut down the schools. So it was a moot question. But just the other day, am I on? Yeah, just the other day, I got another request from that person from Spain and somebody in town that they wanted us to honor this. But the problem that I have is that it would require an additional adding $13,375 to the budget, and I really have concerns about where we could find the money for this, because we're looking at every penny, and we have things that we need for the school district. So I brought it up because I had a letter of inquiry, but if there's a feeling among the board that this person would come in and live with a host family for a year, but we would be responsible for the tuition, and NFA, where they want to go, does not have an account that would cover this extra tuition.
Does Griswold have an account? I'm sure they don't.
No, their tuition is about the same. It would be an additional cost, Kathy. And I'm just reviewing this. I'm not asking for a decision by the board, but I'm concerned about where the money would come from. And,
What about Wheeler? Do they have an account?
beg your pardon?
Wheeler, do they have an account? And they have very favorable tuition rates to begin with.
I don't think we can approve it unless they can somehow manage to cover their own tuition. We could supply the transport back and forth to one of our, we got a bus going anyway. But unless they're covering the tuition or their program covers the tuition, I don't think we're looking at dollars and cents and trying to get that number down. We can add somebody else in just because it'd be a nice trip. It's a nice idea, but.
Well, in town, in towns where they have their own high school,
Then
they've
it does-
already paid for the high school and there's not an additional expense to the local taxpayer.
Mm.
But I'm not asking you to make a decision. I'm just informing you that I have that request and I'm reviewing it. And possibly the person might want to come and speak to the board at some time.
Yeah, I'd love to hear something. I just, you'd be hopeful that there'd be some sort of grant, but I know just based on like what we talked about, trying to rejig my memory of what we talked about with J1 and its uniqueness. Because I know NFA has so many students, international students, but I do remember us talking at length that wasn't something that they get a grant for or, any type of status for, but it's.
They need to stay with the family in North Stonington and they can go to Wheeler.
Oh, I know, but this is a
Yeah,
family in Voluntown. So I think I don't know if anybody has any bright ideas aside from coming through this school budget. We'll keep our ears open for this request.
Get a GoFundMe page.
I know, right? We'll do ground up, grassroots.
Yeah, I'm with Kathy. They should have to pay full tuition.
Yeah, we can't afford we can afford the bus because it's going anyway, but I don't think we can afford the tuition when we're trying to whittle every little thing off that we can and waiting for retirements and whatever that we can afford to pay that.
Yeah, we're all cringing over next month's budget meeting already. God, this will be fun.
I know.
Just an added expense and it rots, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of next month's budget meeting, are we still meeting with Wheeler and doing the budget meeting at the same time?
Yes,
Or
yes, we're still meeting with Wheeler, but I think that we'll prioritize the budget recommendations, and you'll see that. And I think some of the things are clearly will be clearly descriptive in the changes. Please note that I only changed 3 budget lines for this presentation. The next meeting, there might be several, but in effect, maybe the bottom line might even go down a little bit so that it makes the task. But the other issue is that, next month is a budget to vote on, but you still have April and possibly May to make changes, and we may have to go into that. So look at it as a multi-step process.
Adam, I realize a new foreign language teacher will cost us 80 to 100,000 by the time we do insurance. I remember at a Cape, since the kids are all now used to doing remote stuff, there are programs I think you can buy online with a teacher for foreign language. I remember being at a Cape meeting and, when all vendors are there, I was going to, maybe Diana has all the info. She had gathered a lot of it and she keeps everything. But the kids are I think that their big thing, their push was they were cheaper than a teacher. And now the kids are all very used to doing interactive online. It might be something to look into to cut the price of that teacher. Because how much are you putting in for the teacher? About 80?
Yeah, it's about 74,000.
Yeah, depending what insurance they take and everything else. But that was something, I'll have to look online and see if I can find any of them and I'll send it to you. But they had there were 2 companies that were doing it. And they were accredited and this and that, and they were doing foreign language. So it might be so we could actually fit something in and not cost quite so much.
It's an idea.
I don't know, how it
Yeah.
would, but the kids are used to now being interactive with the computer. It wouldn't be a brand new, I've never done something like this before. They've all been doing some days and some programs.
I think that's brilliant in today's day and age to utilize as much technology as possible to its full potential and cut costs and provide qualification. And COVID, I think, has greatly expanded technology, and
Yeah, the kids.
that's a fantastic idea, Kathy, really.
Stuff, but the cost of a teacher can be a chunk once you add in retirement and health benefits.
I
Yeah,
wonder if you could even look at a teacher at one of the local community colleges. I know when I was in high school, my Spanish teacher actually also taught at Three Rivers. She did like a handful of classes here and there. So even doing something remote with one of the community college professors, if they would be willing to kind of design a program for the elementary students, might be an option.
food for thought for sure. Okay. All right, let's, we're done with new business items. Our next board meeting is March 11th. That's all on your calendars. Obviously the budget, like we said, will be the biggest items and any COVID updates. And then Megan and I will discuss ideas for that bylaw. Is there anything else we needed to note for the upcoming meeting of Wheeler's visit?
Personnel.
Right. That's for this meeting. So at this point, we are ready to move into executive session for a discussion of personnel.
We can just put forward that to March. We don't need an executive session.
Oh, good.
We don't need one.
We
Okay.
don't need one.
Great news, Adam.
Excellent. The crowd goes wild. Well, on that note, do we have a motion to adjourn, folks?
So moved.
I think Amy made a motion, actually.
Out.
Oh,
Chris.
gosh. Oh, no.
All right, who seconded it?
Second.
We all
Oh,
did.
Mel seconded it. Okay. All right, all in favor for a move to adjourn at 9:50.
Aye.